Hey guys, this is Justin with a TZR exclusive and my first impressions of Lawbreakers. So it seems like the gaming flavor of the week are these online-only competitive shooter type games. More recently we have Overwatch and Battleborn that are competing for people's attention, and earlier this console generation we saw the likes of Titanfall and Evolve get super popular really quickly and then peter out pretty fast. And with so many titles in this genre, it's kind of understandable why one might go, unknown or underappreciated. And for me, that game was Lawbreakers. I had heard about it when it first released, and it had Cliffy B's name attached to it, so I was curious to see what would come of this title, but my feet were pretty firmly planted thinking that I would play something like Overwatch primarily in this genre. That would be my primary shooter in my gaming rotation. But that all changed once I actually tried Lawbreakers. I was invited down to Raleigh, North Carolina to check out Boss Key Productions, meet the development team for Lawbreakers, and have a chance to try the game hands-on. And I've got to say, I was nothing short of totally impressed. This is a game that embodies everything that's great about these online arena shooters, but it offers something a little bit different in the ways of gameplay style as well as modes. So Lawbreakers places you in the role of the Law or the Breakers. Those are your two teams. It's essentially the cops, the good guys, and then the Breakers, the bad guys. And from what we were told by the developers, the story is basically we're in a post-cataclysmic event version of the United States where gravity is doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It's going up in some places, it's going down in some places, and it's essentially kind of tearing apart the landscape a little bit. And this is the primary mechanic that you get to play with in Lawbreakers. There are certain portions of each stage that are affected by gravity, and there are certain abilities tied to certain characters that also affects gravity. So in the build that we got to try, you had one of 4 different classes. There was the Enforcer, which is kind of like your standard assault class, the Assassin, which was your melee class, the Titan, which was your heavy hitter, slower moving kind of class, and then you had your Mercenary, which was your a bit more agile, flying, but primary weapon was a chain gunner class. Each of these felt totally different from one another, but all kind of familiar enough where you sort of knew what you were doing when you picked it up. So as far as controls go, this is pretty standard shooter fare. Your primary attack is bound to your left click, your secondary fire is bound to right click, and then you have 2 extra abilities bound to Q and E for the Enforcer class, which is what I've spent the most of my time with. The E was a distortion grenade that if you hit an enemy, it basically prohibits them from using any of their abilities. And the Q is sort of like your ulti, but you don't have to wait as long for it to charge up. It's based for the Enforcer, it's a homing rocket that it'll gain up to 4 charges over time, and once you activate it, it fires this laser. Once it locks onto somebody, you hit it again and fires a homing rocket at them. I believe if you hit them with like 2 rockets, it's pretty much an instant kill. And then the final button that you have is your shift, which also changes per character. It's not a standard sprint. It's different for each class, but for Enforcer, it was a gravitational field that goes around you that basically makes all of your actions happen at what felt like double speed. So you would run twice as fast, you would reload twice as fast, things like that. And then the final button that applies to all the characters is Control, which fires your gun behind you. Which, when you think about that, it's kind of like, well, why would you want to fire your gun behind you? It's probably totally inaccurate, and only really used for escaping. But because of how the world works in Lawbreakers, it actually opens up a lot of really awesome mobility options. And I'll explain what I mean. So certain portions of the map are affected by gravity in one way or another. In the map that we played, which was Grand Canyon, there was this center area that was all under low gravity. So when you entered that area, it almost felt like moon physics. You were able to jump super, super high. You moved a little bit slower in the air. When you moved into it and jumped into the field, it would kind of like exaggerate your jump trajectory a lot. But what also happens is that depending on which direction you're moving, your gunfire would actually affect your inertia in that direction. So if you're running forward and you jump and you start firing your gun behind you, it actually propels you forward really, really quickly. And I'm sure you saw it happen a few times in this gameplay footage. Now that being said, other classes like the Titan, who uses the rocket launcher, ostensibly creates a safer version of rocket jumping where you can kind of jump in the air, shoot at your feet, and kind of give yourself an extra boost. It took a little while to get used to this, but once you start getting into it, it felt amazing. It opens up all these crazy mobility options while you're fighting. It adds this really awesome level of verticality to combat engagements in those types of areas. You're constantly looking all around you because there are certain characters that can just be floating above you in these low gravity areas, and you need to, be aware of all that's happening around you. Okay, so you've got these cool physics mechanics at work, you have your standard, shooter stuff, and the game looks gorgeous. Now, this is all good things, but what really makes the whole experience of Lawbreakers come together, and frankly what sold me on the entire package itself, was the really unique and compelling game mode that we got to play. So during the hands-on session, we only got a chance to play one of the game modes, called Battery. Cliff said that there's going to be multiple modes when the game releases, but this was the only one that we got to try. And essentially the way that this mode works is there is a battery in the center of the map. Each team tries to get it, and then when you capture the battery, you want to bring it back to your base and then, sit it in this place so it can start charging. Once it charges to 100%, you have to hold it there for 20 seconds, and then at the end of 20 seconds, your team scores a point. First to 2 points wins. So it's kind of this combination between Capture the Flag and King of the Hill. But what makes this more interesting and more compelling is that at any point in time, the opposing team can recapture the battery, but the battery retains its 100% charge. So essentially what this means is your team could do all of the work capturing it and charging it all of the way, and then in the last 20 seconds the opposing team can run in, wipe your whole team, steal the battery back, and then score on, basically your hard work. You got the 100% into the battery, all they need to do is hold it for 20 seconds, and then they get the point. So what this does, and what makes it so compelling, is it creates this really, really high-tension moments at the end of each point. Those last 20 seconds are the longest 20 seconds you will ever experience in a video game ever. The pressure is so ridiculously high when you're holding on to it, trying to fend off the opposing team, or if you're trying to steal the point from them in the last few moments, you're trying to organize with your team, more effectively, and go in and just steal it away from them at the last second so you can, prevent them from getting their point and potentially letting your team score. These moments, it's hard for me to articulate how compelling these moments were. It was just the biggest rush when you steal that battery away and you bring it over to your side to get that final charge in it, or to close that last point. It feels incredible, and I've never seen a mode like that in another game that created these ridiculously high-tension, extremely satisfying moments at the end of each match. Okay, so final thoughts. After my first session with Lawbreakers, the only thing that I can say is that this game is dope. The shooting feels incredibly solid. all of the characters have their own unique personalities, and I'm super interested to see how the rest of the lore in the world kind of pans out. The mechanic with gravity is something unique that we haven't really seen before. We've seen versions of, aerial combat in shooters, but nothing like this, and nothing as unique as the sort of combat engagement that Lawbreakers creates, utilizing that mechanic. All of the classes feel awesome. I'm sure every gamer is going to find one that they'll be able to latch onto and really, really appreciate. And what's nice about each of them is they're all easy enough to pick up and mess around with, but you can tell that higher skilled players are going to be able to pull off the most ridiculous acrobatics and the craziest kill shots, and I'm really looking forward to see what people do with that. But by far the most impressive feature of this game, and what has me the most excited for it, is the game modes. Battery was crazy fun, and I can see myself playing that a whole bunch when it first comes out. But if any of the other modes that release with this game are similar to that, in the ability to create these very high-tension, heart-pounding moments, then that's going to be a home run. I'm really, really excited to play more Lawbreakers. We're going to be checking it out this weekend at PAX East, and be sure to look forward to more content on thezeroreview.com. Thanks, guys. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to check out more on Lawbreakers, you can watch my interview with Cliffy B here, or if you want to see something different, you can check out our original series 60 Second Lore here. Be sure to subscribe to check out more content from us, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.